I went into this going, I don't know if I'm going to make a lot of money out of this, but what I do know is I'm going to make a lot of really good quality connections and hopefully start putting the Almost Manic name alongside other bigger brands that are well established. Because one of the things I haven't really talked about yet is we were required to have partners. So it's how do we partner with other companies that see the vision, that see the excitement about this project and the importance of mental health and physical fitness, and how do we work together to promote this project.
You're listening to Customer Growth Sessions, presented by Intergrowth, where we talk through strategies to help up-and-coming e-commerce businesses bring in more customers. I'm your host, Pat Ahern. Let's jump in.
All right, listeners, welcome back to the latest episode of Customer Growth Sessions. Today, I'm thrilled to have Mason Duling back onto the podcast. Once again, Mason Duling is the managing partner over at Almost Manic. Today, we're going to dive into a really exciting docu-series that he's working on. But first, Mason, welcome back. It's great to see you.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Absolutely. Can you start out giving us an overview? What is Almost Manic? What are you building?
Yeah, so Almost Manic came out of, I've been thinking about the project for a really long time. I have a heart for mental health and everything that goes into it, but I've also been in the endurance community for a really long time. And I have physically experienced the intersection between physical fitness and how it impacts my mental health. And so I come from a design background and a creative background. And so I've always loved designing apparel. So I started this project about 12 months ago. I call it a project because it's still really small. But I think that the goal is to create great graphic t-shirts and streetwear and then eventually performance apparel and be able to share those designs and everything. But a small portion of our proceeds goes towards mental health initiatives. And so every shirt that's bought or hoodie that's bought, a portion of it goes towards. Right now, we're working with NAMI, which is the National Association of Mental Illness. And so we've been really excited to do that. It's been growing slowly, and it's like building a community and everything like that goes around it. But it's been exciting, and I think it's been on my heart for a long time, probably 4 or 5 years now, but just didn't have the right time, was involved in another venture and just didn't have the time to commit to a project like this. And then once I left that other venture, it was time to really dive in and start trying to do it for real. And so I've been learning a lot, relearning a lot of the e-commerce stuff. And it's been an exciting journey so far and has led me to some interesting opportunities. So yeah.
Amazing. And listeners, as a quick sidebar, if you didn't listen to the first part of Mason's interview when he came on the podcast, we did a deep dive into everything he's learned from working with big box retailers over the years. Definitely give that a listen. Today, we're going to focus a lot on the docu-series you've been working on, though. So first, tell us a little about Beyond the Blur. How did it come about? Yeah, share a little more context with us.
Yeah, so I think I'm inherently entrepreneurial, just that's always the way I'm thinking. And I'm not, wasn't at the start driven by social media development. It doesn't come naturally to me. I have to really work at it, I think a lot of people do. But I think for me, the docuseries started, I wanted to do I race endurance sports and have been racing half distance and full distance Ironmans for about 10 years and had kind of always had gravel bike racing in the back of my mind, but never had been taking the leap. I was finally thinking about I've done a number of races now. Why can't I put an actual name to it? Why can't I actually make a difference or an impact with the training and the racing that I do instead of just doing it for my general mental health? And so I started kind of going down this road of what would that look like? Could we turn this into a project? What would that take? And the gravel race that I really wanted to do was Unbound Gravel 200-mile gravel race in Kansas that takes place every year. And it would describe it as maybe the focal point of gravel racing every year. It's a big deal. People come from all over the world to race it, and it's become a very competitive professional race now. And it used to be called Dirty Kansas a number of years ago, but then Lifetime Fitness actually came on board and they bought a number of races throughout the country. And then they created what's called the Grand Prix, which is Lifetime Grand Prix, which is a series of gravel and mountain bike races. And professionals compete for money and the top prize and everything like that, which is pretty cool and shows how gravel specifically has grown massively over the last like 5 to 10 years. And so I think it's an iconic race. So it was easy to like see the vision for that. And there's hype around it, and there's 200 miles is nothing to, to laugh at. It's going to be a really tough day, but I knew that I wanted to make a larger impact. And so it was like, how do we promote positive mental health along this journey? And then I was like, okay, well, could we document it? Well, do I want to do this by myself, or do I want to bring on like some other guys to do it with me? And so brought out 3 other team members. And so now we like have this 4-man team. 3 of the guys are based out of Boulder, Colorado, including myself. And then 1 guy is actually out of Southern California. And so we've been like training and documenting over the last number of months, but it's been so far it's going well. So
that's amazing. So I want to ask you about the business case for doing a docu-series. Talk to me about the business case for Almost Manic, because you're personally investing a lot of time in it. Almost Manic is investing a lot of resources in it. Let's say I'm a business owner. I'm thinking about the docu-series route. What would you say is the big argument for this project?
Yeah, I think I looked at it in a number of different ways. I think if you're looking at it as like, oh, this will make me a ton of money, don't do it. I don't know that, like, I went into this going, I don't know if I'm going to make a lot of money out of this, but what I do know is I'm going to make a lot of really good quality connections and hopefully start putting the Almost Manic name alongside other bigger brands that are well established. Because one of the things I haven't really talked about yet is we were required to have partners. We weren't going to be able to do it by ourselves. So it's how do we like partner with other companies that see the vision, that see the excitement about this project and the importance of mental health and physical fitness, and how do we like work together to promote this project. And so I think if you're looking at it from strictly like a fiscal standpoint, like you're probably going to lose money, but what it does do is it brings to light what you're doing. It elevates the content that you're developing. Like it's easy to just like stand in there and with a phone and talk about your company and whatever and share your products and everything. And that, for a lot of people, that works really, really well. But when you take on a docuseries or a project like this, it elevates the type of quality of content that you're able to develop. And it gives you a consistent mission for your content. Like I can share about mental health and physical fitness and say, hey, buy my t-shirts so that we can support this effort. And some people will get excited about that and some people have. But when you go, this is a much bigger project, here are all these partners involved, let's create something great together and make a larger statement. It's easier to ride that wave of content development, both from like a social media perspective, but then also from like the docuseries perspective. And the guys that are on the team all have their individual stories, and that's where we're deriving some of the content from, is they're getting to tell their story and how life has been from in certain ways for them and how they've been able to deal with the ups and downs of life. There's been a lot of content about Unbound Gravel over the last number of years, but it's primarily focused on the professional field. And professional field is great, and it's fun to watch those episodes that people come out with because they're fast and they do the race like they're just unbelievable athletes. So that's really enjoyable to watch, but that's like that's 2 to 5% of the field at Unbound. Like most everybody is just like your average Joe going to work every day, training hard, and then decides to like go do a gravel race in the middle of Kansas. And I think that that's part of the story that we wanted to tell. Like a lot of the content has been focused around performance. And this was like, let's flip that a little bit. Let's like tell a human interest story and like show the struggle that it is. A lot of all the guys on the team now are fathers. Like, it's like, how do we manage with families and how do we like manage our work and how do we like, keep our mental health in check while training, 10 plus hours a week. All of those things become very intense, but it's like, it's figuring out like, is there even a breaking point for, physical fitness and mental health? Like where you start going like, man, I'm like burned out and cooked and I don't feel like doing anything or training or whatever, but then being able to have like the mental resilience to like show up for your family and your kids. And like, it's been fun because the team has all connected through like, Strava and the different platforms. And it has given us this opportunity to be like, so-and-so's training today. Like, I better also like there's some accountability with it as well than if you're just training by yourself. So I think that's been a really enjoyable aspect of it. But I think going back to your question, I think like it's important to know that like you want to be doing this for the right reasons and for the cause that you're trying to convey, not necessarily like the business outcome. I think the business outcome is a secondary benefit to this. It's the recognition that you'll get and the support that you'll get and all of that. I think that's a good way to promote your company. But the end goal for us is like if we get a few people to go, hey, maybe I should like try riding my bike on a consistent basis, or like maybe I should just like start with going on a walk. Like that's like winning for us specifically at Almost Manic, because it just shows that the project is working and getting people moving. And like that's why I always use the phrase physical fitness instead of like running or cycling or whatever. Like everybody has something different. Like it could be like lifting weights or whatever, but moving your body and being active is going to be make a positive impact on your mental health.
Hey, listeners, if unpredictable revenue is keeping you up at night, this is for you. Most e-commerce brands don't have an advertising problem. They have a predictability problem. Pat from Intergrowth here. We help brands to build a profitable meta ad system for their business within 90 days. If you're interested in learning more, go to intergrowth.com/CGS to book a strategy session with our team. Once again, that's intergrowth.com/CGS. I want to get a little bit more into like the behind the scenes of actually building out a docu-series. One of the things, piecing together a couple things that you shared, one, Almost Manic it's still a fairly young company. You have a really impressive track record, but Almost Manic has been around for a little bit over a year at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really curious, how did you go about getting some of those first few partners on board? And you and I even talked about this before the show. When you're going into projects 2, 3, 4, it's going to be way more straightforward to get partners on board. But how do you approach it that first time through? What have you found to be really effective?
Yeah, so I think for one, it helped that I was like in the industry a little bit from a user perspective. So I was an endurance athlete before this, so it gave me the opportunity to like know a lot of the brands, not necessarily have connections at each brand, but I could like write you down a really long list of potential partners. That's like step one of getting partners. I think also having a really good vision of what you want this project to be. Like for me, I was like, okay, I don't really want it to be like a 2-hour feature film. Like that was not my goal. And that's why we like settled on a docuseries. I was like, I want to be able to have something that's like anywhere between 1 to 2 minutes up to like at the maximum, like probably 25 minutes. And for each episode. And so it was like easy, like bite-sized pieces for people to like jump into, experience something, and then like move on to the next thing in their life. And the other thing was like setting us up to build hype around the project and interest around the project that then could be like translated into the final episode, which is going to be like the race and the recap and all of that stuff. And so it was like building hype before the race even got here would create interest and like follow through for people to be like, oh, I wonder like how they did. And so that was like having a really solid vision of what you want. I knew that I was like, here's the story we want to tell. We want to tell the story of these 4 guys. They're just, for a better term, average Joes that are like going out and doing this race. And then how do we tell that story in like an impactful way? And then I built out a slide deck basically. And then I use the tool Apollo.io, which is like, if you don't know about it, basically you can go on there and look up any company you want and it'll show you the staff, and then you have a certain number of credits and you can select people to email. So we were just like, my buddy and I, Blake, who's on the team, he's like a born sales guy. So he's like, was a huge help in the process, but like just started like sending out email after email after email, trying to get connected with these marketing teams. And a lot of them, we got a lot of no's. Like you just have to be prepared that like, and have like if I want to see this project come to fruition, like I'm just going to have to like go all out for it and just accept the no's, but be pumped about the yeses. And I think we emailed pretty close to like 100 companies in the industry, bike, nutrition, all kinds of different businesses that would be able to support the project. And then we just like went in from there and just kept sending it. And then once we would get a yes, then it was like, hey, let's turn this into a phone call, or let's turn this into a Zoom call and like pitch the project. Or we would, or like, and we would never, very few times we would send the pitch deck with it. We would just say like, hey, here's this project we're building. If you're interested, we can send over a slide deck. You can take a look at it. And then if you're interested, we'll set up a call. And so we did that over and over and over. And then finally we got some interest, and we got more interest than the number of partners that we ended up settling on. But that was okay, because it was, you know, a lot of them were like, yeah, this is really cool project, but it's just not for us this year or whatever. So we just kept going like that until we found the partners that were really on board. And we had a couple of parties like really step up, and make a huge impact for the project. And that helped kind of the ball start rolling, because as soon as you get one committed partner, which was like big for us. Never Second was our first partner. They're a nutrition company. They have this whole like carb system that works really well for endurance athletes. And so we work with them, but then it was easy to be like, hey, so-and-so's already on board. We're talking with these companies, and that gave the project a little bit more credibility. And as we like added companies, we're able to add the list, and then people would be like, oh, well, if these companies are already in, maybe this is actually like a thing. Because you have to basically prove that this is going to be a thing and this is happening, whether they are going to be a part of it or not. And you start selling the like, don't miss out principle, basically. And I think, but like, you have to make sure through all of that you're like, I see the vision, I know the project, I know what story I want to tell, and that story is like more important than like getting X number of partners or getting X number of funding. Like, it helps to get funding, but like in reality, it's like you have to have a commitment to what the project looks like. And it was always like, it was always a scale situation for us. Like, it was like, if we get a little bit of funding, we're going to have the project look like this. If we get a massive amount of funding, like companies come in and they're just like, you know, pouring a good amount of money on, we can just expand the project, what that looks like. We can add a full, you know, dev team to like, you know, have an editor, have a second shooter, like all of these things to like help bring about more content, develop more content. And we landed right somewhere in the middle, which is great. But I think people would be surprised at with the right partners, what you can do with the amount of money that you get. So I think that it's just, you have to get sometimes creative and work with the partners that you have. And so far, partners have been really like rock solid and big supporters of the project. So even though we're still relatively small on their like marketing scale for what they're doing.
Amazing. And I mentioned this to you before we recorded today, but I have no scope of what it costs to film a docu-series. You know, and as you were saying, like there's a range. You know, if you have X dollars, you can, you know, build tier 1. If you have Y dollars, you can build tier 2, and so on and so forth. Do you feel comfortable sharing like some of the like projected budgeting, like some of the rough costs that you're estimating are going to go into specifically this project?
Yeah. So a lot of our partners provided us their products. So like we have a company, Apparel. They make bike bag frames or frame bags, and then like hydration packs and different things. So we worked with them. They sent us a significant amount of gear, but we were able to just like then rep their products in, and that was like pretty cut and dry. Make some posts about them, talk about their products. That was kind of on the social media side of the project. And then obviously like their products would be featured in the film kind of as background like stuff. So we weren't going to be talking specifically about their products, but we were talking about that. So like we had partners like that. Then we had other partners that were like actually investing product and funding. And then we had some partners that were providing like discounts and support that way. So I think from a budgetary standpoint, like you start going like finding out quotes from different partners, and you go like, man, because you can really take it, sky's the limit. If you get really, really good funding, you can be like, you know, wrapping vehicles and doing all the stuff and like really promoting hardcore. But if you're like on the smaller end of budget, like it's possible to do it for sub 10K. Like that's definitely possible. And we're definitely on the smaller side of production budgets. And I think it's being willing to have that conversation, especially with your like whoever's developing the content for you. Now, if you have somebody in-house, makes it way easier because you're just like telling them what to shoot and what to do, and they get to like run with it, right? And your budget goes towards gear and support for them, not for like bringing somebody on. So we didn't have that, so we brought somebody on. So James, our videographer, he's from Optimal Focus Productions. He has been awesome and rock solid and like brought an incredibly high level of production for a pretty affordable price. And it also helped, like he's in the like North Denver area. So it helped to have him like really local. It was easy for travel and production costs and everything like that. Like we didn't have to fly a team in or anything. So all of those, like, I think you can do it for as small of a budget as you want. You just have to be realistic about what you're going to get. And then, because like if we had been able to expand the budget a little bit, we would have been able to like hire an editor and things like that. We had to be like, okay, James is our guy. He's going to be shooting. He's going to be editing. He's going to be doing a lot of the stuff on his own. So we just have to like be prepared for like what the timelines look like, how to set up good production weekends. So like we did one huge production weekend where we brought the team in, and then we just like basically trained and filmed and did the interviews and everything at team dinners and did the whole thing. So it was like fun because it was like a tiny training camp for the team, but it was also good because we got a ton of content in like one concise experience. Whereas like if we had a larger budget, maybe we're doing that a couple of times, or maybe we're like traveling to Kansas to shoot on site ahead of time. Like there's a lot of things that could have been easy. And then some of our team is partially self-funded. So like we got some gear for a discount. So like they're buying that gear. That's not the responsibility of Almost Manic. And that was like explained up front to all the guys on the team that like this is going to be partly self-funded. Obviously, like if you're like, I don't want any of the team to have to pay anything, that budget goes way up because you start like, for the listeners, we're not talking about like a $1,500 bicycle. Some of these bikes are like pushing like $7,500 or more. So it's like they're expensive pieces of machinery, and they're made to go really fast and do what they're supposed to do really well. Like these are specifically designed gravel bikes. We obviously like you start multiplying those numbers by 4, you start going like, wow, that's like a lot of money. So I think that that's something that you have to be like cognizant of, is like the gear to accomplish the project as well. Our project is a little bit more in depth because there's a lot that goes into everything, but our partners have made it a lot more accessible. And the benefit is they get to give product, they get their product seen. For most of them, they don't have to commit a ton of funding into the project to get a decent return. Now, I think that may change in the future. If we decide to do something like this again, it will be easier to go, hey, look at the quality of the content we produce. We're working with the same videographer again. We're doing this whole thing. Like it might be easier because they'll go, oh, this like actually did well. And it was like high quality content for the brand. Let's do it again. But like we're able to commit more. I think it's also one thing that I'll add. I think it's good to know like the marketing cycle, right? Like I started pitching this idea last summer for a race that happens in May. So like I've been selling people on this idea for a really long time and just like hammering it through. But like you have to realize that it takes some of these organizations a really long time to make a decision. And you'll talk to a marketing manager who will talk to a director who will talk to a chief or a VP and like finally get the okay. Well, that may take 2 weeks. So you're like having to like follow up with them and do all this stuff. And like the managing aspect of it takes a good amount of time. Once again, if I had a larger team, I would like have somebody like set as like a production coordinator. Like they would just be like focusing on when is this product getting in? When can we get it in? Like all of those things. And you have to be able to be really flexible too. Like for one of our shoots, we had some of our products didn't show up on time. And so it was like, okay, how do we like pivot to make sure that like we're representing our partners well, but then also like being able to make sure that the content is still at a high quality and that people are still, so we had to like get approval from different companies to use other products to make sure that they were going to be happy still and that they weren't like getting upset or whatever. And so there's a lot that went into like those type of decisions that kind of had to be made on the fly or very quickly. But that's all because like the scope is relatively small for this project. Whereas like if you have a larger scope, you can like, it's easier to figure things out sometimes because you can just, sometimes just throw money at it, right? To make it work. So
Absolutely. So hearing all this, I'd be really curious to what you would say is like an average weekly time commitment that you're putting in. Because I think it's probably easy for a lot of listeners who have seen a docu-series to say, oh, well, the people who are filming, it's just a minute of them filming here, and then it's a minute of them filming there. It's probably just a handful of hours. But obviously, you're just giving us little tidbits of all the behind the scenes. I mean, is this 10 hours a week? Is it 30 hours a week? What's your take there?
yeah, I would probably say like, there's a couple of different sides, right? For me, it's the management of the project. Early on, that was probably 20 plus hours a week for me because I was like, sending out the emails, getting responses, setting up meetings, doing all of that stuff. So that was like one side. The next side was like Almost Manic is recognized as a partner. Even though they're leading this project, they're recognized as a partner. So they have to like, so my company has to bring to the table something as well to offer, right? So like Almost Manic is funding some of it. Almost Manic is producing all of the like streetwear and gear for that. So I'm like, for me, I'm like doing the branding of the project. So I'm like making logos and making t-shirts and hoodies and everything. And then I'm like providing that for the team. So they have like stuff to wear in the interviews and stuff to wear like that, right? So there's a lot of that work that probably like was on top of that. And then you're like managing your team, making sure they're staying focused. And part of this project was like, we have this like 6-episode series that we're producing with our videographer, but then we're also like, I've been like getting the team to produce content, like to promote the project. So we've been like doing a lot of like kind of more what I would describe as like raw content for social media, where it's like, hey, I'm on this training ride, or I'm feeling really burned out today, or like, here's a few tips on bike maintenance, whatever it might be. And then you're just promoting that over and over again. And you're working on promoting that content. So like you have like what I would describe as like the kind of production manager role, which is like working with all the partners, making sure product is coming in, making sure you're getting your discount codes that you're supposed to, all of those pieces. And that gets over time, gets less and less, right? Because like you're starting to check off production weekends or like shoot days. Then you're starting to go, okay, what do we need to shoot? Still have to shoot. When's the video going to come out? And some of that goes from being on my shoulders over to James, our videographer, to start like editing and doing all that work. And then you've got like the own like Almost Manic responsibilities. So then it's like creating all that content or like creating all of that, the apparel. And then on top of that, and making sure that the team gets it and gets the products and everything. And then you have like your own social media that you have to be promoting and like telling the story and like inciting the other team members to produce content. Cause it was like, okay, well, we have to like introduce all of these guys to the channel and we have to like tell the story. And then we have to like reiterate the story and then shoot more content, all of that stuff, which if you have a social media manager, that helps a lot because they're just able to like be behind the scenes and shoot all that content. Yeah. I would give it between 10 to 25 hours of time. So it's maybe not a full-time job, but it's definitely something that could be a huge project for somebody on your team. And it can be really all-encompassing if you let it.
Hey, listeners, if you're struggling to profitably acquire new customers, we're here to help. Pat from Intergrowth here. We've been helping e-commerce brands like Brevity, Cierto Tequila, Bella Bridesmaids, and more since 2016 to profitably scale their customer base. If you're interested in learning more, go to intergrowth.com/CGS, and you can schedule a complimentary consultation with me. Once again, that's intergrowth.com/CGS. So I get the sense that you are juggling a ton of balls right now. And I'm curious, which of those balls that you've had to juggle has most blindsided you?
Yeah, I think there was two. Like one is like the partner relationships, like making sure that you're working with the partners, making sure they're up to date, making sure that they're providing what they said that they were going to provide, all of those pieces. That's like really key. And that has been more work than I thought it would have been, but still overall not too bad. But it's a lot of writing emails and following up with people everything. I think the other thing was like being in the seat that I'm in. I think it's fortunately my videographer has been great in supporting me in this, but it's like, how do we want this to look? When you shoot this, like a videographer is going to show up and go, okay, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to shoot? What do you want? Like, and so you have to have the shot list. Like you have to have the vision. Like for the weekend that we did, where we did like a training camp, we like I had to find all the shot locations. I had to do like, make sure that they were good, make sure they were scouted. So it's been like pretty warm here in Colorado this winter. Like we've gotten very little snow. It snowed that weekend. So then it was like, how do we like pivot with the snow? How do we make sure we're getting the right shots? And so it was a constant like balancing act of like making sure that you're like getting the content that you want. And this is where like, I think when people are like starring in movies that they also directed or produce, like crazy, like that capability is unbelievable, because it's like, okay, here's what I think I want to see in this shot. Okay, now I have to go actually ride and like let my videographer shoot his content. That became an unexpected challenge that I was like, okay, like I actually need to be thinking like, how do I want this set up for the interviews? What's the lighting going to look like? How are we staging the background? Like all those things. Fortunately, I was able to work with my videographer to kind of like paint this vision. And like one thing that's really helpful is like sending him videos of similar content that I was like, oh, this video is kind of interesting. I like this part or that part about it. And that really helped kind of like help him focus on like, okay, this is what they're really looking for. But also like being a creative myself, like providing enough space for him to be creative in it and like make it his own for us, and like not hindering his creativity by, you know, gripping the steering wheel too tight. Cause he's like, hey, I think this would be really good. And like one time I like suggested a shot and he was like, I don't think we need that. Like we already have other content that's going to be really good. I think just leave it alone. So I was like, okay. So like we just left it alone. Cause like I know that he knows what shots he has and what worked and what didn't. And then he can like go from there. So yeah, so it's been good. We've like have a couple more filming sessions that need to happen, but for the most part, we're wrapped until we get to, other than like the social media content, we're wrapped until we get to the race weekend, which is going to be a whole nother thing. Like it's going to be a whole nother long weekend of filming and documenting and everything. So it's going to be really fun, but it's going to be, I think it's going to feel long. What's going to feel really long is the 8-hour drive back from Kansas. So that's going to be the day after the race. So that's going to be brutal.
Yeah. To your point, I never would have considered the videographer angle side of things. I think back to my own wedding, and I was blindsided when our photographer told us like, hey, I need a list of all the different shots you want. And for me, I was like, I don't know, like whatever you normally do at a wedding.
Exactly.
Man. Last major question, then I want to get some resources for how people can follow the project. Time machine question. You can go back in time 12 months, talk to a slightly younger Mason. What advice would you give yourself if you're going back to day one of running this project?
Yeah, I think it's interesting on like this time, we structured it very much. Like, as I said, I had long-term vision for what I wanted the project to be. But because I had never done this before, I was like really hyper-focused on making sure that we had the gear we needed to execute. I think going back, I would have said, focus more on the money to get the budget you're looking for, to then be able to execute on the way that you want, comparatively to like, and build out tiers of it. Like I kind of left it open for people to interpret what the investment would be. I think setting good precedent for like, here's what tier one is, like, here's what a top member of the partnership will look like. Here's what they get. Here's what's involved. Then the next one down, then the next one down, the next one down till like, it's like small. So there's like really set expectations from like whether you're talking about partners, which for us, it's partners because we're a company, or whether it's sponsorship because you're an individual. I think it's focusing on saying, hey, here's what you get for what you're investing in at minimum. Like, so for like some of our partners, it's like at minimum, we'll have custom training and race kits. Those are like, people are getting their name on those kits and they're going to get in the docu-series because the name is on the kit, right? That's like bare minimum. Then you have partners that are like, hey, I'd really love you to like go over what product you're using and like some add-ons to what it looks like. And so I think for me, I would have structured it more focused on like a tiered approach of investment and then move from there and say like, hey, we really need X, this or that, because it's fine if you show up with all the cool gear, but if you don't have the funding to actually produce the project, unless you're like, I don't really care about producing like I'm willing to foot the bill for the production cost. If you're willing to foot the bill, then that's fine. Then just go for product, enjoy the partnerships and enjoy the partnerships that you're working with. But I think setting it up with clear expectations of what they get for what they invest is probably the most valuable thing I've learned, because if you get the backing that you want, you start being able to utilize that to offset some different costs. Like we would be like, if we had gotten really significant funding to be like, our production team is good, they have all the money they would need to do whatever they want to do, then you can start going like, okay, well, now the housing in Kansas, we can pay for that. We can start paying for things that, or like, hey, we got totally loaded with funding. Nobody needs to pay for their bike. We can fund all the bikes. But like, then you're starting to go, okay, well, they're owned by, Almost Manic. It's changes the dynamic a little bit, but at the same time, you're able to do different things and structure it differently. So I think for me, it would have just been like setting up effective expectations ahead of time instead of kind of just like flying by the seat of my pants going, okay, well, what are you guys willing to give? Because like, this is what we're trying to do. We'd like, obviously I expressed to everyone that funding would be helpful, but if it's not like, hey, to be a tier one, partner, you need to contribute $5,000 of funding and this product, a product line set, and here's all the things that you need to provide, but this is also all the things that you're going to get. That would have been immensely helpful so that it's very clear, because companies get interest like this kind of stuff pretty frequently. And it's easy to go, no, we're not interested. No, we're not interested. Because it's easier to say that than be like, okay, now we have to like carve room in the budget. Now we have to like work on this project, all of that stuff. So I think that's probably going back what I would have recommended.
So that was incredible. I lied because I want to ask you a follow-up based on that.
Yeah, sure.
Putting you on the spot here, but we'll work with it as much as we can. Let's say, rather than this project specifically, let's say, fast forward a year from now, you're looking to do project number 2 in terms of a docu-series. So let's work with some assumptions. Let's say that your total estimated budget maybe is going to be like 20 to 30K is the benchmark you're looking for the production. How would you think about structuring those different like partnership tiers that you were talking about? Whether it's like tiers 1, 2, 3, what are some of the things that you might incorporate in there, price points? Again, on the spot here. So as much as you feel comfortable sharing.
Yeah. So I think we're already kicking around ideas for season 2. So we've had some ideas. Members of the team are interested in participating again. It's a balance between figuring out like some of the ideas are outside of the cycling and bike industry, which makes it a little bit more complicated because you go, okay, we now have a track record. This project, season 1 went well. Look, it's because I'm speaking it into existence. Season 1 went well. And the next, but like, we want to do something outside of cycling. Because if you go back to cycling, you go, hey guys, we did this last year. It went well. We want to do it again. We think this could be really fun. We can promote it more. We like the budgets could be bigger potentially. We can do more with the project. Some companies might be really on board for that, or you have the track record to go to other businesses that said, hey, once you have a track record, let us know and we'll probably be on board, right? So you can like jump in with another company that might be interested in the project. But if you go to a different subset of like outdoor activities, then you start going, okay, like we need to connect with other partners that we haven't worked with before and explain that. But like, I don't think it changes, but like, couple of the ideas are international, so it increases the budget significantly because you're going, okay, well, we got to like fly everybody there, we got to like shoot on site, we got to like shoot, have a number of different shoots here or there, and it might be like everybody's gone for I don't know, 10 days out of the country, so then you have to make sure everybody's got passports and all these things, right? So like the logistics of a project expands or decreases, but you're still going, I want to show a different way for people to get involved and excited about this project and about the importance of mental health and physical fitness, but in a different way. Like last time we did cycling, now it's time to do whatever it might be. Let's look at how to do that effectively, right? And what partners we would want to bring on board. But I would definitely set it up with tiers. And I would say like the lowest, like I think lowest requirement is always going to be product, but the deliverables on our end would probably be significantly less. Like you're just providing product. We can make like one social media post about you and your product will be in the docuseries. That's it. Then like you go to the next level. It's like maybe they're contributing like $1 to $5 grand and you like determining on the budget and scope that you set. You go, okay, here's the budget and scope. This is what we need to accomplish it. You go, okay, let's say it's $5 grand. $5 grand is like entry. Now you get recognition on our website. Now you get links on our social media. Now you get X number of posts and like you add that up and then obviously product placement in the project. And then you go like you're maybe 1 to 5, then you're like 6 to 10, then you're like above that, like, you know, with 10 plus. And if the nice thing was like for us, Never Second was like, we like this project and we're going to commit. And then we also got landed Cannondale, which was a huge win for us, gave us a lot because both of them are big companies and they're both recognized in the industry. So it's like if you can land one really solid company, like I said before. So if we were to do like, let's say we do some kind of more outdoors, like in nature focused thing, and we would pick like, you know, one of the bigger parties there in that industry, you get them on board. It's easier to get the other parties on board. And you can say, hey, look at what we did with this group last year. Let's sell it again. And they might go, oh, well, this really fits. But I still go back to like, you got to start like close to a year in advance. Like you have to be going, okay, what is set up for 2020? So 7. You're not talking about like, oh, we want to do it at the end of 2026. So I'm going to start now. You're like, we're going to do it sometime in 2027. How does that play out? And you're kind of on this rotation for producing content. And I think it's like, once you have the connections from like a film standpoint, you can start going, okay, like what does this budget really look like on your end and how do we like execute? One thing that I will say has been really helpful is we're working with one C3 called Fractured Atlas, and they're able to provide, their whole mission is like providing support for creative outlets for companies, right? And so, but it provides you an avenue to have organizations or individuals fund your project and they get tax benefits from that investment. And then basically Fractured Atlas invests into your project. So, and you can utilize those funds that have been like committed to your project into the work that you're doing and help fund it. And that's been like, it's been a huge help for us through the project because some parties were like, hey, we're like interested. Is there a way that we could like see this as like philanthropic? And so that's been one way that we've worked. And those are called fiscal sponsors. There's a number of different ones. You pick one that fits what you're trying to do. Fractured Atlas worked really well for us because they're heavily leveraged in the arts. And so because we were doing film, it was an easy connection and you have to apply and they have to approve you and everything. But it worked out really well because we could have partners commit funds through them and then we would be able to access those funds for the project. I will say it's also cool because you can do actual like cash or funding, but you can also do like products. So they could like commit product and you have to like write up what that product costs and everything. And then they can take tax benefit from that too, which is pretty cool. So it's an interesting organization. And there's some fees associated with like them managing it and providing the correct tax documentation and all of that stuff. But for the most part, it's been a pretty straightforward process. It takes just a little extra paperwork on the back end.
That's so brilliant. Well, Mason, this has been amazing. For listeners that want to follow the docu-series, where can they go to, whether it's on social, whether it's via website, where can they go to follow along?
Yeah. So we've got a page on our website. Just go to almostmanic.com. There's a tab at the top beyond the blur. It'll tell you about the project and about the team and show off all of our partners. And you can access all of our partners' websites through our website. And then also just, I think the biggest one is just following on social media. So we're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and you can just follow the Almost Manic account, and it will and we post on a regular basis there updates and different content for the project. And then actually we have a link tree through our Instagram where you can access all of our partners' products. And I will say that there's a couple of partners that we're working with on like limited edition products that will be like for the project. So those are still in development and will be hopefully rolling out here in the next couple of weeks. But we're excited about those, and we'll be promoting about that. And the purchase of those products will actually go towards the funding of the project, which is pretty cool.
Mason, this has been amazing. Once again, listeners, this is Mason Duling, the managing director over at Almost Manic, and I guess we'll say docuseries star in the works right now. Mason, this was amazing. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to Customer Growth Sessions. If you found it helpful, subscribe and give us a review. It helps us to grow the show. Looking for more SEO guidance on how to grow your business? Contact us at intergrowth.com/estimator or email me directly. You can reach me at pat@intergrowth.com. That's all for today. We'll see you again soon.